Hello music makers, welcome back. On the last video, this comment from Synth Coven saying they wished more producers these days were making tracks with this sort of grit. That got me thinking. First of all, yes, I agree. I think a lot of you should be seeking a less perfect sound. Secondly, I also got a lot of comments from people trying to recreate my signal chain, letting me know that the textures plugin I used is no longer available. So with that in mind, I thought we'd have a quick explore of some alternative plugins, along with how you can recreate the effect yourself using the basic tools already in your DAW. And beyond that, some bonus tips on other ways you might create flavor and grit in your tracks, and why I think that is more important today than ever. First of all, before we get into alternative plugins, may I point out, if you just want to add tape and vinyl noise, then the Isotope Vinyl plugin that we're already using for processing in the chain already has noise options in terms of dust, mechanical and electrical. Obviously, they're just fixed options, unlike textures, but they're already there to use. I just thought I'd point that out. As for tape noise, the alternative to the IK Multimedia plugin I mentioned, Cassette 2 by Callum Audio, that can generate tape noise. So if you've already swapped that in, you can just turn that up. Or if you have the IK Multimedia plugin and prefer its sound but want the extra tape hiss, you could just run it in parallel or on its own track even. It doesn't have to process any audio. The tape hiss is just always on. Again, it won't behave exactly the same as the textures plugin, but there you have two simple options you might already have just for adding the noise. Okay, so the most direct alternative free plugin is this one, Tumult by Consistent Interruption. It's actually better in some ways, but worse in others. Better in the sense that it has more modes and more control. It has more noise type options, like washing machines, static, VHS, that kind of thing. The only thing that's really worse about it is, in terms of vinyl noise, there's only 5 built-in options, and there's no tape noise options at all. However, generously, it lets you import your own, and as I'll discuss soon, there's plenty of places you can get those. In terms of getting it to behave like textures, you want it in follow mode, not duck, at least halfway up on the dial there, with a release of around 100 milliseconds. You'll have to play with the threshold. That sets how much level coming into the plugin is needed to trigger the sample. And then when the sample is triggered, there's an overall level for that in the top left here. Also, like textures, down here are some filters, so you can remove some of the lows and highs. But also there's 3 extra EQ bands if you want to play around with the tone in the middle. So an upgrade in many ways, but there is one piece of majorly bad news. Well, bad news for Mac owners. It's Windows only. So Mac users, what are your options? Well, the only direct replacement I could find is Pentimento, a collaboration between DB Dunn and YouTuber Teatro. It has lots of similar features to textures and some enhanced ones. Unfortunately though, the noises we would like are locked behind the paywall, which is $50. Even then, only 3 built-in tape options, but that also does unlock the ability to import your own samples. Failing that, Cymatics still gives Origin away for free. This is a little older, I'm not sure how it performs on Mac Silicon, you'll have to tell me, but it's a great flavor plugin regardless, with many of your lo-fi needs in one box. And in the top right here, all of the useful noises we would be after. Now, this won't behave like textures dynamically, but at least the noise is tied to the transport of your software. So when you stop playback, the noise stops too. And that begs the question, do we even need the dynamic behavior of something like textures? Or is it really just about the quality of life feature that the noise isn't constantly playing unless we're playing back? So let's look at textures and see what it's actually doing. Then I'll show you how to recreate that very easily in your own software. So if we listen to textures here on a slow kick drum, set to one of its tapes, as you can hear, whenever there is input signal, i.e. our kick drum, it triggers a noise sample. Except not quite in the way a sampler would. A sampler would start the sample from the beginning every time. That's not what's happening here. The tape hiss is on a loop. It's just using the input signal to change its volume. So we just hear it wherever it currently is. That's really easy to do ourselves. All we need is some noise and a dynamics processor known as a gate. The good news is every DAW comes with a gate. And as for getting noise, if you don't want to sample any of the previous options, there is a plethora of free samples to download from sites like freesound.org, pixabay.com, or Music Radar are still giving away a free sample pack of over 500. All we need to do is drag some noise into a track. I'm going to grab one of the vinyl crackle loops and the tape noise. My software Ableton has already looped them for me. You might need to turn on some kind of loop mode to make them repeat. I'm going to put those two tracks in a group so I can put the processing on both of them at the same time. Let's find our gate. Put that on the group. While we're here, let's grab an EQ. Then we can do the filtering like Textures does. Okay, we're all set. Now all we have to do is tell the gate to listen to something else other than the noise. So then when it hears that signal, it opens the gate, letting us hear the noise samples. We do that via the sidechain. That's here on my gate. I'm going to create a group of everything else apart from the noise and get it to listen to that, a kind of pseudo master channel. Then all we have to do is play with the threshold and the timing. Okay, now you can EQ to taste if you wish, pick a volume for that channel, and voila, you have textures at home. Now, don't forget, that was just an example of recreating the specific chain that I had. You don't have to trigger vinyl and tape noise. You could make your own signature background textures for your tracks. How about the sound of waves or water in more ambient tracks? And I don't just mean techno, I mean ambient genres too. Or how about machinery for a more industrial vibe? And don't forget, you don't have to trigger from the master either. How about triggering broken glass samples from your hi-hats or snares? Or how about only having noises triggered from your reverb sends, so the reverb gets added texture? There's a million ways you could come up with some kind of sonic signature, and that's more important today than ever. Having this channel, I get questions every week now asking how to get that polished pro sound. And it's absolutely not a goal I would recommend trying to follow. There's a saying which goes, perfection is the opposite of progress, or the opposite of good. But I would like to modify that slightly and say perfection is the opposite of interesting. Obviously, as a producer, as an artist, we're all trying to perfect our art, our craft, our tools. That hunger is always there within us. Some of that is useful, some of it is not. And what many forget, or just don't take the time to realize, is that in the real world, it's received very differently. I could show you 100 videos from this year alone of polished sounding producers performing to an audience of phones and zero dancing or any other emotion. I'm sure you've seen many yourself. And unless we push in another direction, this whole scene dies. And of course, AI song generation is here, and it's just adding to the noise. And by definition, those tools work by creating an average of everything that is fed into them. All you're doing by trying to sound polished is making yourself more average, more forgettable. Of course, I'm not saying recreating 90s techno or just adding noise is the solution either, but the principle of striving for imperfect sound is an extremely relevant and valuable one, in my opinion. Okie dokie, that's all I have time for this week. The live stream will be on Sunday, 6 PM GMT, if you don't know. Unless, of course, I pass out from the heat in the UK at the moment. Until then, if you learned something, please show your appreciation with one of the appropriate buttons, or there's a link in the description to buy me a coffee. And until the next video, I will see you down there in the comments. Bye-bye.